joint meeting between the City of Gainesville City Commission and the Utility Advisory Board. And so we just need a motion to adopt our agenda.
Moved.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Johnson, seconded by Commissioner Sacco. Y'all want to make a mirror motion before we go to public comment?
Would that be adopting the agenda also? Yes.
Correct. Yep.
So move.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. I think it was Mr. Wheeler made the motion and Mr. Rockwell seconded. Adam, good evening. Glad to have you with us. Is there any members of the public that wish to speak to the motion to adopt the?
Good evening, mayors and commissioners. We do not have any public commenters at this time. The floor is yours.
Okay, Madam Clerk, if we could move to a vote.
Commissioner Sacco?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Simmons? Absent. Commissioner Ward? Absent. Commissioner Ariola? Absent. Commissioner Hayes Santos?
Aye.
Mayor Poe?
Aye, that motion passes 4-0 with Ariola, Simmons, and Ward absent. Mr. Chair.
Yes. Want a roll call for us? I think our staff usually does a roll call for us. Robin, can you do that?
Yes, we are doing the roll call on the motion to adopt the agenda. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Member Wheeler?
Aye.
Member Jacobson?
Aye.
Member Miles?
Aye.
Member Starling, what is happening? Oh, she's non-voting anyway. Member Rockwell?
Tim, you want to repeat that? It didn't come through.
Aye.
Thanks.
Member Crow?
Aye.
And Member Fultz?
Aye.
That motion passes.
Probably needed to ask the chair too, so I make an aye also.
All right, I'll get this right in a minute. Member Porter?
That's all right. Aye.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, we have ourselves an agenda. So if y'all just give me a sec, I gotta open up my participant pane. My iPad working on me, so I gotta go over here. Okay, we have an update on the UAB's draft energy and utility policy. Mr. Chair, were you going to present this or somebody from GRU?
I was going to have an opening statement and say what happened to our last meeting and what conclusions we came from and the status of where we are right now, if that's all right with everybody else.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you. Take it away.
All right. We worked on this energy policy for the city for the last year and passed it off to City Commission, General Government, and GRU for comments. We just received those comments back, I believe, October 8th, and went through them. And it's a consensus of the Utility Advisory Board that while many of the comments were extremely informative, the problem exists that we had in the very beginning, and I want to shout out to past members Alford and Sylvester for keeping our nose to the grindstone and realizing that policy is different than the actions you take to implement that policy. So most of the comments we felt were not really changes to policy, just information about how that policy might be implemented. And that's the act of what we do going forward to implement that. So be that as it may, we felt that our policy would stand as written. some comments, obviously from the mayor about where some of the actual work might be done, i.e. the transportation areas of the plan. But again, if we electrify our community with transportation and a built environment leading the fore on that, the utility will be very much involved in that. And so therefore we thought we left the policies stand, and how we implement those would be the work going forward. So that was the gist of our last meeting. The UAB at the workshop, as far as a consensus, unanimously agreed upon that consensus. But again, we did not have a vote since it was just a workshop. So that's kind of where we're standing on that. And so one of the biggest overriding things is we'd like to get the policy as it is, a living document that will change, out into the community to get some input and get some communication going and see what the community thinks about different aspects of it and where we're going forward with this.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Want to give the opportunity for staff to make any comments. I wanted to just kind of point out the obvious that many people who may be watching haven't necessarily read this draft. So, adding some clarity as we're able, might help with that. But again, its next step is to sort of go out far and wide, and we'll make it, readily available to folks that want to look at it and give us their feedback. And I think we need to ask some big questions, such as the relationship, what are their priorities, the relationship between, say, more renewables versus upward pressure on rates. That's a long and hopefully very deliberative set of questions that need to be asked and answered. But Mr. Blarski, did you want to make any comments? Besides the written comments that you provided that we've seen, but I think maybe a broader overview would be helpful for anybody watching.
Sure, Mayor. I think that the Utility Advisory Board has spent a lot of time putting together, what their vision for the utility is. I think there's some very admirable aspirations that are at play here. I've always got to be with one foot in the ground, and maybe on the ground, maybe not in the ground, maybe that's the word. and one, pointed in the right direction for the future. As I've spoken to the UAB members as well as the City Commission, my concern with the policy is always based in, how the utility will be serving its customers in the future. We're already in a situation that's well documented in terms of having a substantial amount of debt, having higher than the average for our rates, and a lot of the policies push those rates higher. And if that's the policy of the commission, that's what they want to do, that's fine. My job is to just inform the commission and the UAB of those consequences. And once decided, then we all own it. It's the other side to this is, quite frankly, when this past year, when we got into the 50 megawatt power purchase agreement for the solar farm, we went through our IRP. We looked at what we could handle in terms of balancing our load, and that was the limit to what we could do. We're waiting for the next technological, organizational, structural change that will occur at the utility to see that we can put on more. And throughout this document, there's discussions of, promoting rooftop solar, other things that just make it difficult for the utility to sustain the types of rates and the types of services that it now provides. So there's a cautionary tale here. And that's my job, to tell you the cautionary tale.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bolarski. So I'll open it up for any questions or comments that the commission might have. And Mr. Chair, if it works for you and easiest for you, I don't mind running the lights, as you will, or the hands from anybody on the Utility Advisory Board as well, if they want to jump in.
That's quite all right. Absolutely all right by me.
Commissioner Santos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank the UAB for all the work I'm working on this for multiple years. I think you brought it up, Mr. Mayor. I think having it go out to the public, I think it's a good idea, and maybe for like 3 months, and then to get feedback, and then I don't know what the best process to get that feedback is. It having a website or something like that, and there's an email address or something, and then having it come back to the commission, I think in like either January or February with that feedback from both the UAB and then also the public. And so we can actually get it in order and pass it as a utility policy. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anybody else have any thoughts? Commissioner Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would echo that I really appreciate the tremendous amount of work that has gone into this. And there's some great ideas here. I like the idea a lot of the community taking a look at this. You know, let's see what's palatable to our community, and let's have those conversations, and then bring it back to the commission to start paring down into policies that can go on the books based on what works for the community. I think that's a good road for us to go down, and we can see. We kind of know that there are folks who will end up in direct opposition to a variety of things, and people who will jump right on a few things in a positive way. But let's see what the conversation ends up being. Let's see what that broader conversation and where the ideas, where the good ideas get polished in the community conversation is a way to think about this, I think. So I'm not sure what the best way to put it out there is, but I really like that idea. So, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner Ward. Mr. Wheeler?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to express my appreciation to the General Manager. He and I have had many a discussion on this and some opposing views. He brought up the impediments, the obstacles, the problems we would have in implementing it, and I appreciate that, but this is a path. This is a plan. I've emphasized on my term in the UAB that the UAB sets policy, the manager sets daily management actions. We need to look ahead, look beyond the day-to-day management, which he does so well, but we need to move past the discussions of what we can't do and focus on where we can go. I purposely used this background as an example to say this is a great thing that the GRU is doing. This is the solar farm, but we need to do more. And I'd like to structure this discussion in terms of bills and not rates. We need to look at the overall picture. We need to look at what global warming is doing to each of our communities. And then we need to look at how we can lower the bills for our customers, but not necessarily always have to have the lowest rates. I look forward to working with Ed and with all of you in the future and trying to get over those obstacles, but I would caution that this is a policy plan and not a management decision. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Lewis-Miles, welcome.
Hi, thank you, Mayor Poe. So I absolutely echo Member Wheeler on everything he said. It is aspirational, Ed, and I know it's difficult, especially when we have a community yelling and talking about how problematic that utility bills are on some of our customers, not all of our customers, some of our customers. And so I understand going forward, we want to make sure that we don't have any pressure on that, and I can appreciate that. But as Member Wheeler said, that it is something to aspire to, and it's going to cause us to think a little bit outside the box. And to that state, I wanted to also add that our community engagement piece, I sit back with the policy and I listen to my colleagues, and I think all of the input is great input. But at the end of the day, as Commissioner Ward said, this is something that we want the community to also own. And we have to start doing things a little more robust than a survey on a Survey Monkey thing on online or website. We have to do some intentional community engagement, get the input, and be willing to go back and look at some of the suggestions for our community. So it may not be a 3-month thing. And I know that as one of the UAB men, when I came on, this policy was on, and I've been here a year and it's still on, and we're still coming. So it gets, and then we have some new members who brought some new thoughts to our head. And so I think the community engagement portion will also be an opportunity for our new members to kind of add their piece. So it may not be that quick. I'm asking that it not be. And I'm also willing to engage my community arm that I work in so that I can help kind of guide that engagement piece. So it's a little bit more robust and intentional, and we do our due diligence to the community and getting there, not just listening to what they say and checking off a box, but making sure that we're implementing the things that they're suggesting, those things that are important to them. And that's all I have to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And that's where I've been. In fact, I had a meeting with all the charters, well, 5 of the charters earlier today. And one of the things we spent a lot of time talking about is how do we do effective outreach and engagement under these circumstances? I've really been, it's literally been keeping me up at night. Like there's so many huge things that we're trying to do as a city, including this, but also, a lot of other, initiatives and huge policy lifts. So at a time when, under normal circumstances, we'd really be sort of out there, wearing out the shoe leather and, trying to fill up the fellowship halls and the community centers with neighbors. We're not able to do that. And so it's really, I'm growing increasingly frustrated, not with anybody, but because I haven't been able to figure out the answer to how we do that. So I've challenged our charters to try to work to come up with some ideas. I know that we've, we have this new community engagement process and toolkit that I'll say piloting. I mean, we're sort of trying it out on, one big policy area, hoping that we can then use what we learned from that to use it for everything. But we're still in early stages of that too. So I guess that's my long-winded way of saying that any and all ideas to me, what's important is to reach those neighbors that we don't normally hear from, the ones that don't show up to every meeting and don't tune into every, Zoom call, but are just as affected by the decisions we make and whose perspective is really important for us to understand as we are trying to move, in particular this, but many, many other things forward as well. So I'm all ears. I'm really ready to sort of lean into this and roll the boulder up the hill. But we got to figure out what's going to work. Because I agree, an online survey or what we've done in the past is just not, I don't think it was that effective in the past pre-COVID. It's certainly not effective now. So, that's as big a challenge as anything else we have to do. Back to you, Ms. Lewis-Moss.
I just wanted to add, you're absolutely right. And one of the things that I've been doing here in our community, that's why I said I don't mind partnering and absolutely getting information from whatever our city is working with. I have long, on behalf of Habitat and Greater Duval, wanted to be a conduit between what the city has going on in my community. So I've been doing these community conversation drive-throughs and providing meals and just standing social distancing from my neighbors while they're in their cars, talking about these subjects, you know, for a little bit. And the city has been working with me great and providing space for us to be able to spread out where we're safe and kind of getting out and having people drive through. We have incentives for them coming. So there's definitely some work that's out there. I already working with Clarissa Raskin to get some information from her to give out to the community as well. So we have opportunities for staff to partner with us. There's ways, and you're absolutely right. We have to reach the general public at whole who is affecting, and they have to get involved in the planning process before it's a problem. And I have some ideas, and so I'm willing to definitely work past this particular board to make sure that the community gets the information that they need. And that's all I have to add. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll take you up on that, and I'll probably be giving you a call as well, just so I can chat with you about what you're thinking. Mr. Jacobson, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to go back to what Chair Porter was saying. I'm all for community engagement and getting feedback. My concern is this is a policy statement. And as we saw with GRU, they gave us a bunch of feedback and we said, thanks for your feedback, but that wasn't a policy feedback. So I just want to caution as we move out to community engagement. I don't want to do that to the public, to have them feel like their feedback was not taken to heart, because it's hard for people to really understand the difference. People want to talk about implementation. And this is just policy. So I'm not sure I have a great answer to it, but just want to caution as we go out that people feel heard as they're talking about policy.
Sure. Yeah. Efficacy is important. Absolutely. Commissioner Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So a piece of having those community conversations is for those of us who, particularly those of you on the UAB, but all of us really, who have been immersed in this for a long time, the pieces of it that you feel most passionate about, this is the time to go talk to people about it, make sure that people do understand it. This is the time to evangelize about the things that move you. And sometimes that's, not sometimes, that's always a challenging process. But yeah, people interact with GRU by paying their bill for the most part. And that's a big challenging thing. That's hard because this is not a cheap process. You know, the many of the things we're talking about will move rates to some degree. So this is the time to talk to your neighbors and to as we figure out how we can actually meet with people, how this can work safely. This is where you get to evangelize. Take the things that you're most passionate about and move them through the community and make sure people understand and want to be a part of those things. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chair.
I'd like to make a formal request, if it's all right with Member Miles, that whatever you're working on, Mayor, with relationship to community involvement, that you include Carla on that conversation. She is our go-to person in our group with the finger of the pulse in various communities and has more ideas than we have time in the day to figure out how to do community outreach. So if you would see fit to include her on a more formal basis, I'd be grateful.
I think you just got Volin pointed, Ms. Lewis. But yeah, I will. And we'll share, I'll have our clerk send over our engagement toolkit that we've been working on too. So you can just see what that is and where we are with that process and what we hope to get out of that. And they can even present that at your next meeting if you'd like them to. It probably would be value to that for sure. Okay, absolutely, I will do that. Commissioner Simmons, hello.
Hey, Mayor, thank you so much. One of the things that the city manager, myself, and Ed, general manager with GRU, have been thinking about and contemplating doing, and we're pretty much on track to do it. It's a mobile city hall. This is an idea that has been in the works for quite some time. I know it was set on the back burner. COVID hit, took place, and we got kind of off track. But I think now more so than ever, it's the time that we start going out into the communities and meeting people where they are. Having that mobile city hall, if you will. Right now, we're in the beginning stages of what exactly we want to have on the mobile city hall, what programs, what literature, what information. And I think now this would be a perfect time to implement some of the some of you all's thoughts, get out into the community, in addition to GRU, look at core programs with the city as well, because we are one government, we are one city, and whatever we need to do, it needs to be consistent with that one theme. And so, like I said, we are doing a mobile city hall. I think this would be a perfect time to implement some surveys, ask additional questions, get more feedback. And not only that, you will have the professionals from GRU on hand, so we can get that information, that face-to-face feedback that we're looking for. So this is the beginning stages, and we will certainly entertain any type of information you all want to have with the mobile city hall. So this would be perfect that both of these groups can get together, come up with some type of literature, some type of survey, whatever you guys want to put into the mobile city hall, in addition to general government information. So just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's an opportunity. And I'm sure we could schedule it where each commissioner sort of, was on the spot and on different days and times. So there was actually an elected official there as well.
Right. And that's where we are, Mayor. We're looking at the days, the actual time. We sent staff back to look at what's feasible for as resources. And so we're right now planning that. And so this is perfect. So we just wanted to put that out there to both the boards. Thank you.
Great. That's exciting. I love it. Commissioner Santos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think one of the things we should look at as well is doing to Commissioner Simmons' point, is doing maybe a study on if we implement this policy, will you pay more? And how much would you kind of pay more? Which I think would give us an idea of what does the community actually want, and what will they pay more for, or maybe are not ready to pay for now. Because there are certain policies down here that will raise rates, and there are other policies that won't have as much effect, but being able to have some kind of hard data on that, I think would be helpful as well. Actual like market study on the elasticity of the rates versus policy. Thank you.
Yeah, that's where I was thinking in the beginning. Basically, like, there's a trade-off for all of this, and so where are people's appetite for those? Ms. Lewis?
Yeah. So, Mayor, one of the things I was listening to Commissioner Hayes Santos, and having that information, it will be interesting. But as Member Wheeler said earlier, it's going to cost us. And so, one of the things that you all have already committed the utility to is becoming, we have a 2045, is it goal that we have? So to work towards that goal is going to increase our price anyway. So I think the conversation should be more about how do we do internal controls to make sure that we're healthy enough to fulfill some of these aspirational goals. Because some of them, like when it comes to our renewable energy, some of these things are not trade-offs. These are things that have to be done. When in the age of climate control and all the things that we have going on with our energy, some of these things have to be, has to do with our livelihood and the way that the world is changing. Some of the ideas about electrical vehicles, I would probably never own one, but it's a big deal right now. And so to implement some of these things, yes, it may be costly, but this is the way that we're going. And it's more or less about being prepared to handle what's in the future, as more as trying to figure out if we want it or if we don't, if we're going to pay for it, because you set a goal before the people, and we're looking to fulfill that. And I think this policy is kind of guided towards that aspirational goal that we have of being 100% renewable by 2045. That's going to take some doing. And it's also going to shift what the benefit to the utility is, what the profit of the utility is. As Ed had said so many times, he said that. So I think the conversation, it would behoove us to kind of have a more robust conversation about going forward. How do we do these things as a city, and trying to get the buy-in from our ratepayers, our biggest investors, customers, depends on who's having the conversation, what the title is. But for me, it's investors, and trying to figure out, how do we reach that goal? How do we do not just what's best for our utility, but our customers and our climate and the world that we will be living in now, and the world that our children will be living in the next 25 years when we have that goal to reach. And so I appreciate all of that, but my community conversations are going to be directed more towards the community as investors, and how do we get them in a position so we make them healthy and whole, so that they're able to pour into the utility what we need going forward.
Great, thank you. Mr. Chair?
Yeah, I'd have to throw a little bit of a left-handed hook in this, and the fact that a lot of conversations talk about how let's increase in rate pressure, but our real problem is the fact that we can't raise debt. The fact is that solar is a very cost-effective way to deliver electricity. It delivers it all in the middle of the day, so you have to plan on that. But I would look towards the idea that coming along with this idea of renewable energy is electrifying our community, because we burn an awful lot of fossil fuels in other areas of our community. We have gas water heaters, gas space heating, and those are not the areas of our utilities that are having problems. It's the electrical part. So selling more electricity by increasing the number of electric cars, converting water heaters to electricity, space heating to electricity, seeing if we can get another chunk off of UF. Those add up, in basic chunks, bit by bit, as you increase it to 10 to 20% increase in total electricity sold through the utility, if you start looking at those areas. So that is an area we should explore, because spreading the bill out towards more uses and more customers has a downward rate pressure. So, and the PPA that Ed's group did with the solar farm here was another piece of good work on fiscal good management by that group that has no upward rate pressure. So again, there's ways to, I don't want this conversation to be all this, oh, we're going to have to gird our loins and suck it up and pay a lot more money. Well, I just don't think that's written in the cards. Our general managers proved time and time again to be a wizard at playing, and I shouldn't use the word playing, but moving money around to the advantage of this community. And so there's a lot of things to be done here that don't have upward rate pressure. So how we sell this and how we talk about it has to have a few more messages on here. Now, I appreciate Ed's, putting in those warning signs, because they are there. And that means we have to sharpen our pencils and do our work better and think outside the box. That's why we have people like Member Miles. She's really good at thinking outside the box on some of these things. So, and as the rest of the board is, but anyway, I just thought I'd point that out, that there's not always an upward rate pressure message in this.
Thank you. Commissioner Santos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm not saying that we shouldn't move towards 100% renewable energy by 2045, if not sooner. I think we should, and should do it sooner. And there, yes, you're right. Not everything on here has upward rate pressure. One of the thoughts of doing a study like that would be able to, there may be an appetite for our community to want to do certain things faster than other things. It allows us prioritize things that the city wants. And they have different effects. So that's where that kind of price elasticity study would come in, like, well, I don't really want that if it's going to cost this, but I'm okay paying this if it's going to do that. And I think that's where we kind of allows lots of community to help with the prioritization of it. And definitely letting them know, like, well, you'll get, I don't know, you can pay $1 more and we move 20% closer to renewable energy. Are you okay with that? Or pay $2 and you only get $5 get there. So allowing us to prioritize based on what the city wants. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Volarski.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a few things. I appreciate what Wendell Porter is saying in regard to not all of these have upward rate pressure, but the gorilla in the room that we can't lose sight of is we did an integrated resource plan. We worked with TEA, the Energy Authority, and we looked at, how to get to 100% renewable by 2045. And that number came back with today's technology and with a risk factor associated with that of close to $2 billion. Our debt load right now is $1.6 billion. So we're talking about just to get to 2045, and this is still with gas backup on Rice engines, just to be there so that in case the battery backup failed or, we didn't have enough energy, that they could kick in. You're talking about, I don't think we could actually borrow that money given our current situation. If we did, it would have a dramatic bond rating decrease. So there's some real, this isn't speculative. This is the technology we know today. So we just, and I hate to be the naysayer and all this. I understand, where everyone is trying to go with this, but we do have those numbers. That's what we're talking about. So there isn't going to be this incremental, we'll chip away 10% at a time. The last time we had a chance to do that, given the current state of our generating fleet, is the 50 megawatt power purchase agreement. We're not going to get into another 50 megawatt power purchase agreement in the next 5 years, given the current state of our fleet. We don't have the backup capability. What doesn't work within NERC and FERC, it's not going to allow us to do that. So we're waiting for that next technological advancement, and then that's battery backup, combined with some other source. We're in the land of sunshine, but we don't have the capability of converting that sunshine into a 24/7 power source at this time. So I'm just fearful of putting this into policy as we go down this path, thinking that there's going to be an a la carte menu for folks out there that they can say, yeah, I like this, I want this. The same thing goes when you start doing distributed renewable power systems. Well, when you do distributed renewable power systems, that's basically taking a chunk of GRU revenue and saying, okay, that goes someplace else. That has significant upward rate pressure. That's the whole problem with rooftop solar. You put rooftop solar on folks' property that can afford it, and the folks that can't afford it don't get it. They have to absorb the fixed cost of the utility. Their rates go up. So people who live in Commissioner Simmons' district, are the ones that can't afford the higher bills that are subsidizing the rooftop solar throughout the community. And these are discussions we've had at the UAB, and it's true, Wendell and Wes and I will go back and forth on some of these issues and understand the aspirations. But we have to be careful that we don't go into this and hand a plate to the community and say, here it is, what do you want? Because if I'm in that community and I don't understand the way this all works from a technological perspective, hey, I'm voting for all renewable. Let's do it. Just my thoughts.
Thank you. And you lit up the board with that, Mr. Bolarski.
I'm sure I did.
Back over to Commissioner Simmons.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And that was, I wanted to ask Ed, and he pretty much answered some of the questions I was going to ask him. Basically, in his professional opinion, what was his thoughts? And he pretty much told us his thoughts. How would this have an impact on the underserved community? He pretty much touched on that. And what I wanted to know from Ed, looking at this, he talked about a la carte and having that as an option. In your professional opinion, Ed, would that also be a major concern, because now you're having to choose, or you have to have the option to pick and choose. So would that be a real concern for you based on what your research and what you've been looking at and just being in the business for a long time? How would this impact residents in District 1 or the folks that cannot afford it?
Good. Can I answer that, Mayor?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the game plan for a utility is to treat all customers fairly and equitably. So what you try to do is promote the lowest cost economic solution across the board that's environmentally friendly and meets community standards. And that's what we try to do and operate in a reliable, safe fashion. Unfortunately, when you pull certain elements out of your service, you're left with a fewer amount of folks left to cover the cost of those services. It's the opposite if you think about it from, the idea of getting a bigger tax base, right? The whole idea with taxes is you expand the tax base so that you can cover more people on a cheaper basis. What we're employing from an economic perspective here at the utility is let's contract the customer base and then try to provide the same services to all those customers that can't get the luxury service. And that's what I'll call it. I'll call the rooftop solar the luxury service. So folks that are stuck in your district that can't afford $15,000, $25,000, $30,000, $50,000 for rooftop solar installations on their property are left covering all the services that are required for GRU to maintain the grid, because all those folks that have rooftop solar, they use GRU as the battery. When they're using the solar during the course of the day, at night they're plugging in to GRU. And when there's intermittency through the day, they've got to use that grid that we have established. We don't drop any of our fossil fuel burning plants that back that up, because that's the reliable source that we use today to back up all that power. And it's the only thing that the energy industry recognizes as a reliable source, because we can control it. Solar is controlled by the big guy upstairs.
So Ed, what myths would you like to dispel about solar energy and the conversation that we're having, and how it's affordable, if that's a good term to use? How do we debunk some myths about solar energy, that it's affordable to everyone? It's what we need, but that may not be the case for the ones that cannot afford it. So what I don't want to see is a mirage in place, and everybody goes towards in the desert and goes towards the mirage and think it's water and it's not. And we get the rug pulled from up under us without a clear plan in place. So what myths what can you debunk tonight for us to let us know that, hey, this is what the reality is, and this is what we're looking at, and we need to work at this to get to that, to make sure it's affordable for everybody?
That's a great question, and I'd also tag Barry Jacobson, who's on the UAB. I mean, he's actually in the business of doing that type of stuff, and we've had conversations about this. And there's probably nothing as cheap as commercial solar that we're putting in terms of that power purchase agreement. That particular contract's backed up with battery for intermittency, but it's not backed up for battery over the nighttime. So when it gets dark, you're still, those customers that were using that power source during the day are using GRU's biomass plant, the Kelly plant, or the coal plant to back it up. So yeah, we need to move toward that, but because there's a certain critical mass that needs to exist, you can't get that past that with solar unless you get affordable, sustainable battery. And as of yet, nobody in Florida is using any of that type of battery capability in this heat and humidity down here to fully back up solar. If it were available, we'd all, at an affordable price, we'd all be doing it. I guess that's the lesson. So what's happening is with rooftop solar, it's kind of that tweener. It's getting it to people that they're almost like arbitrage traders. They're taking advantage of a situation where there's a system that literally can back them up. Whereas everyone else has to pay for that system and use that. So that's the biggest myth. Without battery power that can take you through the night and not need charging during the course of the day, solar is an incremental source of power. It's just an incremental source. It's not a 24/7 reliable source of power. So is that where the future will be? It may be. But even in our IRP, to spend $2 billion down the road, the only way we could figure out how to get there was literally another biomass plant. I don't think anybody's ready to do that right now, because you need the oomph of the industrial sized turbine generators that push in, or as the mayor talked about, leans into your system to provide that robustness in your electric grid. And look, will that change in 5 years? Will that change in 10 years? Maybe. But should GRU once again be out in the front of this, making those changes and putting its at-risk communities further at risk, like in your district? That's my question. Does that help?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And I'm going to get to the other hands, but I'm just going to, I want to just remind anybody watching and listening of something. This is an extensive policy. We're talking a lot right now of to solar or not to solar. That's a very tiny piece of a very broad set of policy recommendations. And I don't want that to get lost because there's a lot, it's a fully comprehensive policy that even beyond GRU, I mean, gets into land use and planning and other aspects of the organization. So this is a good conversation, but I don't want people to think that the UAB spent a year developing a solar policy because it's so much more. Mr. Chair, back over to you.
Yeah, the integrated resource plan is probably, the data in that is probably close to 4 years old by now. It's out of date. It was out of date the day it was printed. Prices are changing so rapidly. $2 billion should not be a figure that goes forward as a realistic number. The solar industry is changing day by day. Of course, the truth about the solar is it is intermittent. And so that part is correct, but the integrated resource plan was put together by a group that has mostly experience with coal and natural gas. I looked through their extensive library of projects and found one project where they got grid access to a wind power farm in the Midwest. And that was the only renewable energy project I could find on their website. So a good first attempt, but I think if we do an integrated resource plan again, we probably should employ a group that has extensive experience in doing this integrated resource planning for renewable energy and not legacy things. It's just a matter of experience. And the prices have changed dramatically in just the last couple of years. So again, I wouldn't say that is a good way to look at it. A positive note is that GRU is talking about having some customer service changes come about within internal money, so to speak, without having to go to the debt. And if we get to some customer service things where we have digital meters and things like that, where we have a little bit more finesse on that. And again, back to electrifying some of our needs instead of using natural gas. We don't need to buy a battery. You can store energy in your water tank. You can buy a water heater right now that's Wi-Fi controlled. And you could just yourself, instead of selling it back to the grid, you could put solar on your roof, and then dump it into your water tank during the middle of the day. And that's a big chunk. That's the second largest user of energy in your house is your electric water heater after your HVAC. So there's a lot of things we can do that don't have to wait for these big giant changes to happen. But again, I would really, really counsel not to keep using that $2 billion number. It was out of date the minute the report was printed. So the group's got a good professional background and has done a lot of projects, but not a lot of renewable energy projects, and the data is old.
Thank you. Do you conclude, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's it. Yeah, that's
okay. That's very good.
Sorry. Yeah.
Commissioner Ward, you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I want to make a couple of mentions here. First of all, there's a lot in here that we can work on that is not, as the mayor said, is not rooftop solar.
Yeah.
We can do things like AMI and that sort of thing that gives us feedback loops that help us, take control, that help all of us, every customer of GRU, take control of our energy usage and really understand better how much energy we're using and how that relates to what we do during the day or don't do during the day. Things like that are going to have an enormous impact. At least I think they will. I can see myself making really good use of that technology once it's available, but it requires an investment. There are many, many things we can do that move us forward differently. Mr. Pilarski said a lot about the next technology and counting on some of that. We know that there's a lot coming down the pike. We know that a few years from now, there'll be a whole lot fewer internal combustion engines powering cars, right? I mean, that's a thing that we can be pretty confident about. I mean, we see the market making those changes. And that's going to have an impact on GRU because you got to plug that electric car in somewhere. And I would much rather GRU sell fuel to run your vehicle with to all of us who are going to buy those EVs than give that money to the oil industry. That's a positive thing that's coming down the pike. We can see it. Another thing that either is going to happen in the next couple of months or is not, and if it doesn't, then honestly, we're going to have to do a lot of rethinking, is that there's likely to be some help coming from the federal government. I can't tell you what that help's going to look like, but we're going to have to see some changes and get a hand up from the federal government for communities like ours that are committed to this sort of thing. That's just a reality of it. And I don't think that's unreasonable to expect. But if communities like ours can make these leaps forward, we're the kind of communities that can win in that situation. So there are so many unknowns that will be a little more known in a couple months as we see programs put forth and as we see the market continue to move forward. So don't get wrapped up in what's possible this moment today, because we know that things change a lot in this industry. And if we look at what technology has done and what is capable for not only the market and technology to do, but what is capable of the federal government to help us do, we have to put that in the equation. We have to. And that requires some leaps of faith. It absolutely does. And those leaps of faith don't always work out. But we're going to have to take those leaps of faith if we want to get to that 2045 100% renewable figure. I'd like to get there a lot faster. I think we can. But the world has to evolve with us, and I think that it will. So we have to have some hopefulness about this. And if we don't have some hopefulness about this, we may as well just hang it up. And I don't think that's where our community is. I don't think that's where we are as individuals. Certainly not where I am. If I can't think positively about where we could go, then I'm in the wrong job. So let's keep in mind that things are going to change around us from the market perspective, from the science perspective, and hopefully from the political perspective, and know that that is going to ease the path forward for all these things that we're talking about. We are not in this on our own, and if we try to do it entirely on our own, we're going to fail. It's all connected, and we have to look at the things that are moving forward around us and make sure we don't miss those boats, to mix a bunch of metaphors. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate you pointing out that solar is just one small component of this, and it's unfortunate that it's used as a strawman argument to knock down by so many utility directors, and I commend the general manager on repeating most of the Florida Municipal League of Utility League's talking points. But there are many programs out there to make it affordable, distributed solar affordable. There are many things we can do to be progressing. We are committed to that. There are so many costs to burning fossil fuels that go beyond just the immediate rate pressure you see today, and the generalizations that the general manager made aren't helpful. We need to move forward. We need to look at the broader picture. I'm not the solar expert. I have a couple of engineers on this board who know far more than I'll ever will, but there are things you can do with it. But more important, I'll take your point. We need to move forward. We need to invest in renewable. The City Commission has charged us with that. You have adopted a 2045. I know that when automobiles came out, the whip and buggy makers said it'll never work. It's too difficult. It's too expensive. People can't afford to buy those new fancy automobiles. And as Commissioner Ward just said, times are changing. We need to recognize and adopt. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Commissioner Simmons, I appreciate your questions on how solar are going to impact people in your district. I agree with Mr. Bilarski on a number of things. I mean, we do have to consider from the utilities point of view, how much spin up do we need? How much solar can you have with the intermittency? I was sorry to see the way he chose to go. This is a really common attack on solar. Solar is going to hurt your community. It's for the wealthy people. There are a couple of points I really want to make. First, it's a state statute. Really, because it's required by law. So it really has nothing to do with this discussion whatsoever.
Barry, you kind of glitched out there for a second. Can you go back and repeat what you just said?
Sure. Net metering is a state statute. All utilities, including GRU, are required to offer net metering. So it really doesn't belong in this discussion. The other is, if you look at the actual numbers to say, what is the impact on rates of net metered solar? It's a really small number. Just pull out the feed-in tariff to say rooftop net metered solar. And you could make the same argument to say, to pick on Wendell Porter has done a lot of energy improvements at his house. So he's not covering the fixed costs of GRU. Is that unfair? I mean, it's the same argument. So I'm sorry we're going there. And I think we just need to look at the numbers.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Lewis?
So I wanted to kind of just, in response to what Commissioner Simmons was saying, and I just totally wanted to echo what Harvey Ward was saying. We have to look beyond what is not, and I hear everything. I've heard Ed since the beginning, and this is not, and I heard somebody say something we need to do a study about. We don't need to do a study. They already told us how much it's going to cost. When the City Commission first had committed to renewables by 2045, Ed has been preaching this to us. So I don't think we need to invest any more money or staff time into doing a market analysis again about what that looks like. But we got to follow what market trends look like. And as a grant writer, I'm always looking, and a member of this UAB. As soon as we started talking about solar, one of the first things that I did was started looking outside at what people were offering for energy efficiency, solar, renewable. There are tons of programs that we can partner with our city, municipalities, private folk that can offset the cost for people in District 1. So, I mean, I too, like Commissioner Simmons, I have a stake in District 1 because this is where I live. And true enough, our houses are older and they pose other problems to us with upward rate pressure. That's why I always go no on voting to raise the rates. And it's interesting that we're concerned about what this does, but we're still making decisions to raise the rates when we need to. So I find that when it's important to us for what we need to do, we will, and what we don't need to do, if it's the GFT, we might. And then if we need to start looking at how can we reach that goal, because it's not just Gainesville. That is what is being recommended for everybody. And so to follow that trend and say, hey, this is going to be a problem. I hear the problem, and I'm glad we're talking about the problem and the issues so we can know how to address them, how to mediate them, and move past them. There are several programs that can offset the cost for solar for people in our community. I agree with Mr. Jacobson. Having looked at some of these grants that I said I don't have time to kind of get the city on board, but there are so many things that our municipality can apply for in partnership with groups like Greater Duval and community groups to do solar projects in their community where they're not paying and they're getting their rates. They're getting their utility bills lowered. So then if you need to increase the rates to be able to operate, it won't be so problematic if they already have their energy costs offset with solar. So we have to think a little bit broader than let's talk about what the issues are and how it can affect our district. We need to talk about what kind of solutions are out there. There are grants out there that we can apply for and get to address the cost of solar. We need to move towards renewable because it's what's best for our country as a whole. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Rockwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I've just been listening and sort of jotting random thoughts down, and I'll just repeat again that this is an aspirational document. These are long-term goals. These aren't things we have to do tomorrow. And how we get there is a matter for future discussions. We're not going to come up with a document that 100% everybody loves and is all in for. There's even disagreement among the UAB members on some of these policies, but we came to a consensus that this is what we'd like to move forward and get people talking about. I think that there are policies in here that would reduce GRU's customer base. I think there are other policies that would expand it. There are some trade-offs here. They might not be completely equitable, but there are trade-offs, and we need to get public opinion. And as Commissioner Santos said, prioritize the list, so to speak. And there will be some tough decisions that have to be made. I think the bottom line, though, is that just continuing with the status quo is not sustainable. It's not going to work for a multitude of reasons. But Mr. Bilarski provided us with a copy of our policy with some comments here and there. And a lot of them, I'm not going to go through them all, but one in particular, I just felt I should point out regarding the GFT, the General Fund Transfer Policy. Part of his comment said, it should be noted that GRU's ability to continue to pay the current level of GFT, $38.4 million, does not come from its annual profits. GRU has paid more than what it earns from its customers in spite of the aforementioned increased cost of business. And I mean, I just don't know of any other business model that functions that way, that pays out more in dividends than what it takes in profits. And there are a lot of other things coming up in the future that without changes aren't going to be sustainable. So I think that I don't want this to be doom and gloom, like Chair Porter said, but I think there will be some belt tightening that has to happen. To use that analogy, though, when it comes to financial things, I tend to like a sliding scale, a progressive scale. There may be some people who only have one more notch on their belt to tighten up. But then there might be other people or entities that have some extra notches, and these are just things these are conversations we're gonna have to have. But I think if we all work together as a community to share the burden, we can get these things done. And really that's what it's all about to me anyway, is that we are a community and we should try to move in the direction that the community signals they want to move. So I don't want to get too bogged down in how we get there. The first steps are getting this thing out to the public, getting people talking, finding out what they want, and we can go from there. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Santos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that we ask staff to gather community feedback on the City of Gainesville energy and utility policy and then bring it back to the City Commission with that feedback.
Okay, that's seconded by Commissioner Ward, motion by Commissioner Santos. Thank you all for your thoughtfulness and the I think we got in a nutshell tonight what you have been talking about for months. Yeah, and that's hard to do. And so I appreciate that. I appreciate all you sharing that. And I'm just going to add one thing, which is, I don't approach this as a sales job or collecting information to say we did it or anything. All we need to do is be very forthright. We want to be very clear about what the goals are and what the steps are to achieve those goals, including some of the challenges, and what some of the risks are. And that's fine. We should do that with any decision, right? And I think that's what will help establish public trust and so that we as a community will well into the future, and that's the challenge. I'm up for it. I think our staff is up for it, but we shouldn't pretend like that's going to be easy. I mean, it's going to be, it's going to be something that is going to be tougher than most things that we've done. And that's, I'm okay with that. That's just the way it is though. Commissioner Santos, did you have something else you want to add to your motion?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I want to make sure that general government is involved in this as well, because this is a City of Gainesville energy utility policy, not just GRU. So I want to make sure that's clear in the direction that we go forward. It affects our whole city. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, absolutely. There's lots in here that very much deals with general government side as well. So with that, we'll move to public comment. Adam, I turn it over to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And we have Mr. Nathan Scott. Mr. Scott, you have 3 minutes to comment.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Nathan Scott. So with respect to the discussion and the motion, GRU management gave a stern warning to the mayor and Gainesville City Commission that the draconian policy proposed by the UAB would result in upward rate pressure and significant electric rate increases to GRU. The mayor and the Gainesville City Commission should really listen to GRU management warning on this point. Otherwise, it's the ideologically driven novices on the UAB leading the ideologically driven politicians on the City Commission. GRU's assertion that solar net metering customers, which includes former Mayor Peggy Hanrahan, who gave GRU customers the highest electric rates in the state with a biomass contract, are using GRU as a battery is completely misleading, as corrected by Mr. Jacobson. Solar net metering customers are also GRU customers who pay excessive monthly customer service charge for electric services on top of paying astronomically high electric rates for any electricity purchased from GRU. UAB's assertion that the 50 megawatt solar project is rate neutral is equally ignorant, as the power purchase agreement requires GRU to make an annual payment of over $4 million a year. For this solar project to be rate neutral, it requires GRU to find over $4 million in cost savings within its existing budget to pay the cost of the solar PPA. Finally, it's comical to watch the mayor and Gainesville City Commission distance themselves from the draconian UAB policy statement and tell the UAB members that they need to go sell their crazy vision, which will significantly increase GRU electric rates, to their neighbors to garner support. That's like tossing a hot potato and then watching the City Commission and UAB eat their own as they disparage each other. It's pretty comical to listen to that. Finally, GRU's professional opinion might be taken more seriously if the general manager took the time to present a more professional appearance during meetings. The barbershops are all open, Ed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Mayor Poe, the floor is back to you.
Okay, thank you. I was going to compliment you on your hair, Mr. Belarski, but everybody has to their own personal taste.
Yep.
You can see I finally broke down. I couldn't handle it anymore.
You didn't compliment me.
I was getting to you, Fletcher. Okay. Well, again, I really appreciate it. What we'll do is ask staff to update you all on what the engagement and outreach plan is once we've developed that. So if that's ready by our next meeting, but we will, they can work with the chair to schedule that. And then you can give any feedback or recommendations once you hear what that is, if that sounds reasonable, Mr. Chair.
Sounds good to me.
All right, excellent. Okay, with that, let's go ahead and move to a vote, Madam Clerk.
If I could just confirm who seconded the motion.
Yeah, it was Ward.
Thank you. All right, Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Simmons?
Aye.
Commissioner Ward?
Aye.
Commissioner Ariola? He's still with us. Commissioner Ariola? Commissioner Jesus Santos?
Aye.
Mayor Poe?
Aye, that motion passes 6-0 with Ariola absent.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed Commissioner Sacco. My apologies.
Oh,
It's an aye. But
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
that's an aye by Sacco. Okay, I believe, yes, we have reached the end of our business for this scheduled meeting. So really appreciate y'all taking time out of your evening to be with us. And one last thank you to all of you for all of the hard work that's gone into this, including prior members.
Right.
Did a pretty heavy lift before they left the board. So for everybody involved, thank you very much. For all of you out there, it's still election season. Please get out and vote. There's 6 early voting locations around Alachua County. If you ordered a mail-in ballot and have not returned it, it's best that you take it down in person to one of the many secure drop boxes that the supervisor of elections has provided and just drop it in there in person. We're doing great in Alachua County, but I want to shatter records. And so make sure not only do you get out and vote, but make sure you get, let's say 10 other people to vote as well. It feels great and it's less filling. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.